Joe, an overtime thriller in the college football playoff as Texas is able to hold on and beat Arizona State in an outright classic and thriller. Your thoughts on the game, my man?
Yeah, well, first of all, I have to give credit to Kenny Dillingham and his squad and the way that they fought and played. We assumed that at the beginning of the game, as soon as Texas started the way that they did, that the game was going to be over. And they stayed in it and hung in it in every way that they possibly could. So a ton of credit there. That program is going to be on the rise. I have been a huge Kenny Dillingham fan for his ceiling for as a coach and how young he is and the energy he brings to that sideline. Really thought that they were going to pull this thing out. Quality throw by Quinn Ewers, a nice, difficult spot for them to deliver the ball where he needed to, for them to be placed in this position to win. But Blake, we have to say this, and the Texas fans are going to whine because they always do when we call out the issues and the deficiencies for Texas.
You can't run the ball.
All the shit that we talked about all year caused this to happen. They should have beaten them by 2 scores and the game would have been over in the third quarter. But all the things that we talk about every single week about Texas happen in this damn game. But we're going to get called haters again, Blake, because we can't say anything negative about Texas. It's insane.
Joe, they continue to find ways in so many different scenarios to play to the level of their opponent, whether it be the Georgia Bulldogs, Vandy, or now Arizona State. The problem is they got pushed around up front after Texas punched Arizona State in the mouth early. Texas got pushed around in the running game. It's not opinion. Joe, they had 54 rushing yards. Quinn Ewers in the first half was indecisive after the first couple of touchdowns that Texas was able to get. Joe, they had 54 rushing yards.
It's abysmal.
No, it's more than abysmal. Joe, you're having a team in Arizona State that got pushed around by other opponents all year long and was not effective in the running game. We talked about it in the preview. Joe, they were in the mid-70s in rush defense. Mid-70s. And you're allowing a team to be able to push you around up front. So, look, we're 14 games in with Texas. I don't know what to make of them. What team will ever show up? You tweeted this in the first quarter, and you were kind of playing around, but it was true about doing our post-show reaction already in the first quarter. But the problem is that they show flashes of a team that can be really good. Now, listen, sometimes you got to overcome adversity. Sometimes you got to find ways to win football games. And we say it all the time. Texas isn't excluded from this. Good teams find ways to win football games. Joe, they kept meddling around and meddling around and meddling around. Outside of getting the return for a touchdown and the opening score, Joe, they had 3 points in the second quarter. They got blanked in the third quarter, and Quinn Ewers had the only touchdown run in the fourth. They got dominated. Quinn was making bad, ill-advised throws. They couldn't run the football, and Arizona State kept chipping away, and finally found confidence. And we'll talk about Cam Skattebo here, I'm sure. But, man, there just comes a place in time. They do this to themselves. And I'm done doing this. I'm done sticking up for Sark. He has been bad in moments with the quarterback that he has on plays he wants to call. I don't think Quinn is built for what Sark wants to do. Take him out. He made some good throws.
To play.
At some point, you got to have a different level of running the football. If that's the only way, then by God, do it. But there just comes a time where I look at this. You got pushed around by a team and run defense that was in the mid-70s. 77th coming into the game was where they were at. And you got pushed around. That is a joke. Now, I look at the rushing stats. Wisner, 45 yards on 18 carries. Joe, 2.5 yards a carry. Quinn Ewers, 6 rushes, 1 yard. He had a touchdown. Jaden Blue, 4 carries, 4 yards. Silas Bolden, 5 yards. You got pushed around by a team that had a small defensive front. That's the game. Now, we'll talk about Skattebo, okay? But that is the football game in a nutshell.
That ultimately, I mean, on both sides of the line of scrimmage, this is a situation. Understandably, Texas is banged up on their offensive line, but I don't think that's an excuse when the assumption is coming into this that they're supposed to manhandle a Big 12 team.
You ran the ball for 300 yards last week.
They're supposed to manhandle a Big 12 team, and they couldn't do that. They couldn't. That was where they were supposed to win. That was what I thought coming into this game, that they were going to show and flash their physicality, and it was eventually going to take over, and there'd be less pressure on Quinn Ewers' shoulders. It is so easily out there how to play a close game and then to eventually knock off Texas, or even more importantly, how to just straight up beat them. Force Quinn to throw the ball more than 35 times. Eventually, he's going to have a back-breaking pick that is going to set up your team to score and is going to shift momentum back in your hands.
Exactly what
happened. And it's happened every single time that they've played poorly. I don't care. Texas fans, you guys think that we're picking on you. We are not. Everything that we have signaled and talked about, the three more important things that we've said every single week is, one, Quinn Ewers makes critical mistakes when he has too much on his shoulders because he's just not that type of a quarterback. Arch Manning needs to start. You can't run the ball consistently because your running back room isn't deep enough because the injuries that you suffered at the beginning of the year and the offensive line isn't as good as advertised. And then lastly, what you talked about, you constantly play down to the level of your opponent in situations where you should be blowing past them. This is a game that you should have won. And you mentioned Cam Skattebo to transition our thoughts there. That dude fights like all hell. Credit to him, man. Texas, even though they at times bottled him up, he still kept them alive and fought for yards when it looked like a lot of those plays were dead.
Joe, they scored 31 points. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. He had a passing touchdown. He had the long reception down the sidelines that then he had a face mask and a PI penalty. They didn't have an answer. And then the opposite side happens. So let's talk about that. Yeah, you're right. Cam Skattebo had a great game, and he got some tough yards when he needed to get tough yards. Levitt made some runs like the one that they got in the overtime to score. It was 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12. He makes a long run. They wind up scoring on the next play. Skattebo gets pushed in by a big old lineman. Joe, they ran all over Texas. They constantly find ways to play to the level of their opponent. Yep. You got out-physicaled by that team. And I know this is a good win. You were able to overcome adversity. You were able to get over the hump. But, man, Cam Skattebo, 143 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pass, 1 completion, 42 yards in the touchdown. Joe, he led the team in receptions. He had 8 catches, 99 yards. You knew.
It's crazy.
You knew, and here's the bigger thing. You knew going into the game it was going to be the Cam Skattebo show. You knew it, and you couldn't stop it. Now, you're up 24-8 in the fourth quarter. 24-8. And you allowed Cam Skattebo to go off on you. He put the team on his back. And the Levitt.
Sam Levitt. It's Levitt.
Whatever. Kids got severe athleticism in the pocket. Yep. He's a good player in himself. He doesn't need to beat himself up over that overtime interception. Safety made an incredible play. But, man, hats off to Arizona State. I thought they played exceptionally well. And, look, Kenny Dillingham had his team ready to play. And, Joe, they fought. You know, I thought when it was 24-8 and you were scored, I was like, this ball game. It's over.
Yeah,
it's over.
I tweeted that. And they – that is why I like Kenny Dillingham so much, is that it always comes down to the energy that he brings to every situation. There was no quit, and you could see every time you panned over to him, it was coming from the fact that he was expressing that. Yeah. Well, but it was also a level of intensity of just like, hey, we know that we can still fight and scratch and claw, that like we're going to need every opportunity to stay in this game. The only thing I'd criticize him for, on that, like, what was it? I think it was like a 4th and 5 situation. They shouldn't have punted, man. They should have just went for it. They should have just gone and tried to see if they could score there. That's the only like nitpicky thing that I would go against with Dillingham, because the momentum was shifting back in your hands.
Here's the problem with that. I get what you're saying. I saw a lot of people saying that. Here's the problem with that. Texas hadn't scored in over 50 minutes.
Well, but understandable. But I think that plays to what I'm talking about here. Like, you have all of the energy flowing in your direction. Momentum is very real in the game of football. I just don't like that idea. They almost went down there and scored. If it wasn't for Bert Auburn doinking that shit, it would have ended up being game over there. I don't know. I would have gone for it. I would have gone for it in that spot if it was Dillingham.
I get what you're saying. I just think it's the hindsight in that is that, again, they get 14 points in 5 minutes, and then they go another 50 minutes and they don't score.
Well,
right?
It's not hindsight though, because like at the moment that they lined up the punt, I was like, they shouldn't be punting here. I know what you're saying. I think that there's no necessarily right answer.
Well, I mean, they tied it and got it into overtime. So I mean, I guess I'm with you. But look, Cam Skattebo made a lot of money today. That's how I look at this.
Yeah.
So Texas is going to play the winner of Oregon and Ohio State. Joe, they're going to, I don't care what you tell me, they're going to find a way to play the level of their opponent, whoever it is. It doesn't matter. They're going to play up, and everybody's going to say, oh, whatever team's going to roll over them. And you know what? They may. They very well may. But, man, I mean, it just comes down to a point where I felt as if that I saw a team today that didn't take this team serious. And, look, they came out and popped Arizona State in the mouth, and I was like, man, this is going to be bad. And Cam Skattebo said, not today, young man. Anything else? Any other takeaways from this game that you have?
Arizona State proved they belonged. That's the only team that I think that deserves to say that. I think it's fair to say that they proved that they could go toe-to-toe with a top team.
Well, we have seen Texas lose to inferior Big 12 teams before. So it's not. This isn't.
They're supposed to be an SEC team now. I'm just saying.
We inherited them.
Yeah, that's true.
So I get what you're saying, but again, it doesn't.
Pac-12 team technically.
Well, it doesn't. Well, here's the thing. It doesn't matter. The point that I'm trying to make is that it doesn't matter in this sense. It doesn't matter because they do that to everybody. Name a game Texas has played in this year. Name one at random.
Oh, okay, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, it's fair, but all I'm just trying to get at
dogfight in the first half early in the year against ULM until they opened it up. 2 years ago against Wyoming. It was a 7-point game late into the fourth quarter. They do this it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's their DNA.
All right. That's fair. I just think that Arizona State does deserve credit for fighting as much.
No, they do. Well, Cam Skattebo does.
Yeah. Yeah.
That man should have won the Heisman. You remember Booby Miles?
I do.
And he can pass. Cam Skattebo, what a day, man. So great game, great overtime game in the college football playoff. And I think it was great, Joe, for everybody to get their minds off. So Texas will play the winner of